Analyzing Power BI reports has never been easier. Powerops provides instant insights about both the report and the model layers, including complex report features like bookmarks, filters, dependencies, and more. Under the Summary tab, we have two primary sections for both the report and model summaries. Under the Report section, we have a series of cards here at the top that count the number of bookmarks, custom visuals, report filters, visual types, total visuals, and total pages we have in the PBIX. Each one of these in turn also will navigate to the associated section. If we clicked on total pages, it will take us to the report tab and the pages section underneath it. Coming back to the summary section, I also want to highlight that each of these visuals will also contain a tooltip as well, giving additional information about the visual and the associated data. Plus, each one of these sections will have a download icon, which will give you an option to download either the image, the CSV, or the Excel file. Coming up to the upper right and selecting the model view, we're given a similar breakdown of the calculated columns, calculation groups, measures, data sources, total columns, and total tables that are contained within the semantic model, plus additional visuals below that give further breakdowns about model information. Coming over to the Report tab, you'll get a display of all of the details of the report level in Power BI developer-friendly formats. Starting with the Pages section, you'll get a subsection for General, which will outline all of the general information related to the page attributes that is set at the page level. And with each of these sections, you do have a default number of columns that are displayed, but you also have an option to turn on or off any of the additional detail columns for any of the attributes on the particular section that you're in. Additionally, under the Page section, you'll find a subsection that will outline all of the filter pane visual configurations in terms of formatting and design, and similarly for the filter cards section as well. Continuing along and coming over to the visual section, initially you will see a table breakdown of all of the visual types and information related to those visuals, such as the fields used, which gets a breakdown that actually indicates whether or not measures, columns, calculated tables, or hierarchies are used in that visual. Outside of the data that's being used in the visuals, you have a formatting section as well, which will give you a summary of all the formatting plus an option to show more, which will expand out to show the underlying JSON code, which displays in a formatted fashion all of the attributes for the formatting for that particular object. Closing out of this and coming over to visual interactions, this section will highlight both the outbound and inbound filters. Outbound means what other visuals are going to be impacted or filtered by a particular visual. So the store breakdown visual will cross-filter the category breakdown and this other custom visual card. But it also shows that those same visuals will also provide cross-filters as an inbound filter connection as well. Coming over to the general subsection, this will give a summary breakdown of all of the different objects that you have on a report page and all of their associated attributes. And last but not least, if we come up to the upper right and select the visual view, this will give you a wireframe of each page that will show all of the associated objects and visuals that have been added to a page. Plus, as a nice added bonus, you have a bookmarks section, which will, per page, let you see the bookmarks and then their associated objects that they impact when you're toggling or activating said bookmark. Coming back to the top level of the Report tab, and now coming over to Custom Visuals, this will give you a breakdown of all custom visuals that are either used or unused in your report. Additionally, you also have something harvested from the app source, which will be the publisher of that custom visual, any support links, the ratings, and even additional description information on what it does, plus, when relevant, a link that takes you to the app source page. The filters section coming up here will list everything from the filters pane. So you have your visual filters, you'll have your page filters, any associated report filters if they were added to the report, and a drill through filters selection as well. The bookmark selection up here will list out every bookmark that is in the report at a summary level to start with, and additionally, if you were to come up to explore more, you'll get a detailed pane that will list out every part of the capture state of the bookmark in terms of every visual and attribute that was configured at the time of the snapshot when the bookmark was created. Moving over to the action section, this will list out every action that has been assigned to every button across any of the report pages. The sync slicers, as the name implies, will list out all the attributes of any slicers that have been synced across various pages in the report, and their additional configurations as well in terms of field or filter changes. And last but not least, the navigator menu will show you if there are any navigator buttons used, so any page navigator buttons or specifically bookmark navigator buttons. Summary of all of the information related to the particular model objects. Starting with the table section, we will get a list of all the tables plus all of their configurable attributes that are listed below. And once again, as a reminder, you can also choose which columns to show by coming over to the Show Columns option and configuring that from here. The columns section, if we come up to the upper left, will give you a list of columns, but also broken out with a navigation pane over here that will let you select the table that you want to see all of the columns associated with it contained within. Plus, also notice the icons that will represent the regular tables, any of the tables that are being used as a measures folder for the DAX calculations, or any of the DAX calculated tables as well. The hierarchies section will list any hierarchies if they've been added to the model. Any of the parameters will list any of the field parameters that we can see over on the left, or any of the numeric range parameters that were added to the model. Data groups will list any of the categorical or bin groups that were added from any particular column. Data sources will list out all of the sources and where that came from, whether or not that was from Excel, any online data source, on-prem data source, and so on. Plus, with an option to copy the connection definition if you desire. The relationship section will list out all the relationships, but also give you some additional information, such as the direction of the relationship and its type, and any of the other configurable attributes as well. If you have an incremental refresh policy added to the model, you'll find that contained under the refresh policy section here. And similarly, if there were any additional perspectives as well that were added using a tool such as Tabular Editor, you would find that contained under the perspectives section. And last but not least, we're going to come over to the model view, and this will give you a diagram similar to what you would find in Power BI, with the ability to actually move the tables around, which will move all of the relationships. And if you were to click in the middle of the relationship line, you'll also get a pop-up which will once again give you information regarding that particular relationship. Closing out of this, and last but not least, we have a properties pane which can be opened up on the right, which will give you the same properties that were configured in Power BI Desktop and shows you what those current configurations are here. Take note that this is a display-only interface, so you cannot reconfigure these. It's just simply displaying what was configured at the time of saving this file. Next, we're going to come over to the DAX section and take a review of this. To start with, all of the measures that have been added to the model will be listed here, including what table name it is associated with if you are using any kind of a measures table. The measure names will be indicated here. Also, an expression will be over on the right with an option to copy out the raw code or any of the DAX formatted code as well. And additional information such as the format strings, and so on will all be contained over on the right. And as a reminder, all of this data can be downloaded and exported if you want to get a full list of your measures either in CSV or Excel format. Moving over now to calculated columns. Similarly, we will be given a list of calculated columns that are contained in here with the option to either copy out the formatted or unformatted expressions that was used in those formulas. The calculated tables will follow a similar structure, once again giving you the option to copy the code if needed. And the same type of table printouts would also exist if you had any calculation groups or KPIs. The next section we are going to review are the dependencies. The model dependencies view will show a combination of all of your measures, columns, calculated columns, and calculated tables, and which items are dependent on the others. You can also use any of these to filter out those items as well. Use the search box to search for a particular item. Let's use net sales as an example to filter. And in this scenario, we can now, over here on the right, see the net sales calculation, which is based off of these two columns from the model, and then everything else downstream, which is dependent upon it from all the other measures that are based on top of it. Similarly, you can right-click on any one of these and either highlight or also add a filter, which will now then show both of these, but only the dependencies related from the final calculation of WIF total profit, and then all of the dependencies that it has upstream from it all the way back to the original column sources. Coming up now to report dependencies. This will help you find the visuals and pages impacted by the changes in either measures or models, again with a legend and key that will allow you to filter to any particular item that you have in this, and these can all be moved around to also rearrange and organize to see what items are dependent on it. Once again, with also an option to be able to filter to a particular item and then see the related items from the report level and its associated dependencies. Last but not least, we also have the Power Query dependencies, which will indicate what the original source was, any of the actual source strings, and then the associated dependent queries downstream from it. Coming up to the roles section, this will give a breakdown of any role level security or object level security roles that you have assigned to the model, with an indication like most of the other sections that will give you a row level breakdown and table output to summarize all of the information regarding the expressions, what the table and references are, any of the types, and further information. And the last section within the Analyze tab is the Information section, which is information about the file type itself, which will give you a lot of information on all of the different attributes related to the model, some of the designs on what connection mode it is, what Power BI data source version was being used, any of the themes that have been assigned, as well as language, but then also as well over on the right, a summarized view of the various other attributes that can be configured from a top-level model perspective.